We all have kids. And so, do you know what the topic is that they tell you? No? Okay, good. So we'll read a case study. I know it says case studies in the service, and I did this case study actually at the servants meeting, and I know that not all of us are servants, but it's okay. I want us also to look at this case study from the servants' perspective and also from the parents' perspective, and see how we can go through this. So the case is about handling dishonesty. So we'll read a case study together, and then we'll have a discussion, and then we'll have some points that we can take away after this. So rather than me just reading, maybe we can just take turns. Each person can read like one paragraph. Albert, can you start?
Sure. Mina is a very active, strong-willed, and firm middle school servant. He had planned a new weekly book review activity for his kids. He bought several copies of the spiritual book, Paradise of the Fathers, and announced the starting date of the new activity, which is going to be every Tuesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m.
Okay. Somebody else can continue.
On the first day of the book review meeting, Mina went to church 45 minutes early and prepared the meeting place and waited for his kids. Unfortunately, only one student, Carla, showed up.
Okay.
Mina was very disappointed and angry. He asked Carlos if he knows where is everybody. Carlos said he didn't know for sure, but he overheard the kids saying they're not really interested, and they decided they would gather at Mike's home and play video games.
Okay.
When Mina called Mike's home, he could hear the kids in the background. Mike denied having any visitors and said he couldn't come to the meeting because he had to study for a chemistry test.
Okay. So we see what's happening here, right? So the first question, obviously the kids are lying, right? There's something that's not being truthful there. So first question that we can discuss together is, what are the possible causes for kids to start lying? Fear. Okay.
They are in trouble. They did something wrong.
Yes. Okay. So that's one of the biggest one. Yeah. They're trying to cover up, or they're trying to stay out of trouble. What else? What are?
I think also out of convenience. They want to play, they want to go to church, whatever is convenient for them, they can lie about it.
Okay.
And they don't want to disappoint.
Okay. So they're afraid. They don't want to disappoint. They rather do something else, and so they lie. What else? Any other reasons?
Embarrassed.
Embarrassed. Yes. What else? What about in this case study? What do we think are the reasons that they lied?
They are not interested in the book.
Yes. So this is the root cause, but the lying is the problem.
To make them look better about themselves. Like, they don't want to admit that they're not interested, so they're covering up for pride.
Okay. So now let's take a look at the servants and how is he feeling when he is presented with this situation?
Failure.
Failure. Yeah.
Frustration.
Definitely frustration. What else?
Disappointment.
Disappointment.
Hopeless.
Hopeless. Like he tried to do this very nice thing for the kids, and they're not interested, and they didn't even show up, and then they lied about it, right? So he could very easily feel, what am I going to do, right?
Out of options, exhausted.
Yeah. What else? Angry, thank you. It's actually very obvious in the case study. He was angry. And he took out that anger on what? On the student that came, right? So misdirected anger. And actually, this is something that we do in the service, and even as parents, is sometimes like, where's your brother? Well, he's not home. Why is he not home yet? Well, you're talking to the child who is home, right? Who followed the curfew or whatever, and you're yelling at him because his brother's not here. And we tend to do that a lot, and definitely in church and in the service in the Sunday school, a lot of times we get angry and we take our anger on the people who are in front of us instead of on the people who are not there. Um, how actually before we go to the next question, now let's take the role as parents. So how would we react, or how would we feel if we find out that this kid has been lying and to Sunday school servant or the church or whatever?
You could approach it like not from an anger perspective, but trying to understand what was your motive behind lying. Because it's deeper than just, I just want to play video games. Like, why are you disconnected from the church, disinterested from the church fathers? Like, there's so many questions, but approaching it in a more because at that age, at middle school age, you cannot approach them in a defensive manner. You kind of get their buy-in on what you're trying to understand.
That's what we should do.
Yeah.
What do we do? How do we usually react?
Take away video games.
We usually react in actually a defensive way, right? And we get angry and upset, and how can you do that? And to the church, and to the servant, and to Abuna, what kind of level are you at that you're doing this even, against God? And we start to, act that way. So how should Mina, the servant, handle this problem? And there's, at least two options. He can either confront the kids or he can ignore what happened. So what do you think? And let's kind of discuss what would be the problem if we follow one or the other.
I feel like it depends on the kid. Middle school's got such a wide variety. Some are just, you confront them and they all react poorly. Some try to have dialogue. Doesn't work. I don't know if there's one answer. From my experience.
I would say confront them and try to introduce games or playing in what they are, like, to get them more interested in coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, if you ignore, then it's going to keep happening again, so you have to confront. But like what Eric's saying, you have to find a technique that works for every child. What works with one is not with the other.
Building a relationship.
Yeah.
That's very important. We'll get back to that in just a minute.
I want to reflect my personal parenting style is I tell them, you have to stand up for yourself, which means don't be afraid. Tell me the truth, what happened, and this will get you out of the consequences better than I find that you are lying. In his case, he has to tell them, you have to tell me that you are not interested in this, and we can talk about it in a friendly way, not in like a bossy way that why did you lie to me?
This is the point that you were making, is if we have a relationship. So this happened, we can imagine that the servant doesn't have a very strong relationship with the children. Maybe he has a relationship of a teacher-student, but he doesn't have a relationship of like friends, right? Because if they had that relationship, they could have easily told him, "Uncle, we're not interested in the Bible study." Or maybe we're not interested in this particular book, and we choose a different book. Or maybe this day is not good for us. But it seemed that it was kind of a one-way relationship. Like, he was excited and he put something together that he thought the kids would be happy about. And there wasn't much of a dialogue between them. And so, they're like, whatever, we're not going to come anyway. So definitely having that relationship is important. And now, if we take the role of parents, if we don't have a good relationship with our kids, then it becomes a problem as well. Then they start lying and trying to hide stuff from us because of all the, reasons that we already mentioned: fear, trying to cover up, not to disappoint, things like that. Any other comments about this? Any other way do you think that he can handle this problem?
You could probably talk to the parents too, because I'm sure the parents have a role to do with it also. I mean, they know that there is something going on at church.
So let's talk about that for a minute. If he goes and tells the parents,
Maybe not the lying part,
okay.
but on a separate note, there's a Bible study on Tuesdays, like at church. Is that a good day for you guys? Because the parents know the kids' schedule too. If they have soccer practice or something going on. So I think also to, because I think the parents have a role to do also. Because if the kids say, I don't want to go, the parents are gonna be like, okay. Some parents.
Mm-hmm.
But if give them the option, you know, because I remember that when we were younger. Okay, like we're gonna go for a little today, or they also know the reason why they don't want to go. The parents can have that communication with you also. I'm not saying go tattletale on the parents and say, hey, your kid is lying to me. But at the same time, like, if the parent is not willing to take them, they're middle schoolers, they can't drive, they can't make that decision on their own. They need someone else to, you know, help out in the decision making.
Yeah.
We want to be on the same page with them.
What would happen if we went on tattletale and told the parents, hey, we had a Bible study, your kids didn't come, and they even lied about it?
You lose the trust.
Exactly. Any relationship that we are building with the child is going to be broken. They will never trust us again. So it's definitely better to confront. We definitely don't want to ignore, right? Because if we ignore it, that encourages more of the same behavior. We want to confront, but we want to confront in a way that is beneficial, right? Not in a way that is going to make us enemies, not in a way that's going to also not very accusative either. If we become very defensive and start yelling at them, then you know they're probably going to lie on top of the lie, right? They're going to try to cover the reason for lying with another lie, and as Eric said, we need to, you know, there's no one size fits all, right? Some kids will be able to talk to very easily and they'll be able to have a good conversation with us, and some other kids, we may have to, you know, find a different approach, a different way that we can talk to them. What should the primary goal be for the servant?
Understanding why the kids did what they did.
Okay, yep.
To see like the image of God in you when you're, you know, having that conversation, that they can see God in your action.
Okay. So yelling and screaming is not the image of God, right? And again, as parents, right? And I'm guilty among all of you that when my kids do something, I get angry. It's the first reaction I have is anger, and you know, anger usually doesn't resolve anything. It just adds to the situation. And so now I'm yelling at them, and now they're yelling back, and now they're making up stuff because they don't want to get in trouble. And so I get angry because I know what they did is wrong. And so then, you know, I start giving them punishments, and then they get angry, and, you know, it just escalates from there. So definitely seeing the image of Christ, it's easier said than done, right? It's very difficult for us to complete the image of Christ in us, but we have to try. We have to make sure that the image that we are portraying is that of who we want the kids to relate to. I've been actually kind of contemplating over the past maybe a couple of months on how my kids treat me and how we treat God, and it's almost identical. Right? You tell the kids, hey, come, I want to spend some time with you. What do they say? I'm busy. No, I'm playing my video games. Go away. Maybe later, right? God says, come, I'd like to spend some time with you. And we say the same thing. I'm busy. I want to watch TV. I want to go to the game. I want to do whatever. I tell my kids, hey, you know, let me give you a hug, and they run away. Right? And God does the same thing. I want to give you a hug. I want to have an intimate relationship with you, and we run away. Our kids, you know, get angry at us when we don't give them what they want, right? And we get angry at God when He doesn't give us what we want. It's actually parenting makes us understand a lot more of our relationship with God, and maybe that should help us get closer to God when we kind of see these things. Actually, I told this to Abuna a few times. I said, God is Ghalban with us because we treat Him the same way that our kids treat us. And it's no wonder that He is really all loving and all caring, because most of us, we get very upset when our kids treat us that way. But God doesn't get upset, and he keeps on waiting for us to come back to him and to pray to him and to spend time with him. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about, how dishonesty changes with age. So when kids are young, typically when they lie, it's more humorous than anything else because they don't really know how to lie very well, right? So we'll watch a small video here. And tell me what you need to do. You need to wash your hands. Did you eat cake?
No.
You didn't have any cake? No. What have you been eating?
Nothing.
Nothing? You haven't had a single bit of cake?
I have to.
You had some cake? You did. You ate cake?
Are you funny?
What?
Are you funny?
Am I funny? I think you're the funny one. Did you eat cake? This is a defense mechanism. Nope. Just try to change the subject. Why do you need to wash your hands?
My hands are sticky.
Why are your hands sticky?
So it's fine. And they come from the floor.
How did they get sticky?
They always come from the floor and they get sticky down below.
Your hands got sticky from the floor? Let me see your hands.
Sticky! It's from the cake.
It's from the cake? You've been eating cake?
Uh-huh.
Why did you lie and tell me you didn't eat cake?
Mm.
Oh my gosh.
I will wash my hands.
Here's some soap. I think you better wash your face too. Okay. So, yeah, when kids are young, they typically, when they lie, they don't really know what they're doing, right? They're just trying to cover up something that they did, and even the lies are like very see-through. You can tell that they did something wrong, and they're just trying to cover it up. But when they get older, now they learn how to lie properly. And so they try to figure out, what kind of lies will work and they can get away with it, and then what kind of lies, will not be believable. The younger kids are more likely to lie for personal gain because they want something, so they will lie to get it. Older kids will actually feel bad if they lie as they begin to mature and actually understand how to lie. Even though they know how to lie better, they will actually start to feel bad when they do it. So there's going to be a feeling of guilt. The younger ones won't know. Like this girl, she's like laughing it off, like, yeah, I ate cake. But the older ones will have an extra feeling of guilt added. So how does lying change with age? So this is a study that was done here in the US. It found that 82% of teenagers reported that they lied to their parents about one thing or another. And as you see the list, it actually gets worse and worse. So money, alcohol, drugs, friends, dating, parties, and actually even sex. So as kids get older, it gets more serious if we don't kind of take care of things when they are younger. So why do kids lie? There's 4 main reasons why kids lie. The first one was what we kind of already talked about, is the cover-up. I did something wrong and I want to cover it up. I don't want to get in trouble. The second type is the lazy lie. We'll talk a little bit about that, but I don't feel like doing something, so I'm going to lie and say, it's done. The white lie, which is a very dangerous one. And then finally, the cry for help. And this is a very critical one. So the cover-up is I did something wrong and I don't want to get punished for it, or I don't want to get yelled at for it. So how do we respond? If we punish every time that they do something wrong, then they might think, you know what, I'm getting punished anyway, so let me try to lie, maybe sometimes I'll get away with it. If we don't punish, then we don't correct the behavior, so they know that they can get away with it and they just keep lying. And it gets more complicated if we punish for the lying as well as the original problem. And this is where it's very important. So the child did something wrong, and then he lied about it, and I found out and I confronted him. I need to discipline and punish him for the actual action, not punish him twice. So you cheated on your test and you lied about it. So I will punish you for the cheating and I'll punish you for the lying. So it's a double punishment. And this is bad. I need to isolate the problem, which is you cheated on your test, and punish for that. Otherwise, the punishment is too much. Okay? And if I correct the original problem, then he won't need to lie again. Okay? Do you agree with this, or?
Yeah.
So what can we try? First thing, remember, the first reaction is anger. This is like just again, especially we're Egyptians, right? And this is just in our blood, right? But so the first thing we try to do is to stay calm, and this is very difficult. And it may be that we have to go away and come back, because in the heat of the moment, it's very difficult to stay calm. So take a break. Okay, I won't talk to you now. I'll talk to you in a few minutes. And then don't make it personal. Don't think that he's lying because it's something personal with you or something like that. And then determine the motive for the lying. What is the underlying problem? What is it that the person actually did, not the lying? The problem with the case study is that they did not go to the Bible study. That's the problem. The lying that we didn't come because we have a chemistry exam or whatever, this is the cover-up, right? I'm not going to punish him for that. I need to, correct the action of why didn't you come to the Bible study, and why didn't you say that you're not interested or whatever, and explain why it's wrong to lie. Okay, so yes, Habibi, I understand that you cheated on the test. Okay, and then when the teacher caught you, you tried to lie. It's wrong to lie. You should have said, I'm sorry, yes, I cheated, and this is why I did it. And then again, punish the motive and not the lie. This is, I think, a lot of us fall into this problem, is we double the punishment. You punish for the problem and you punish for the lying. And then hand out the reasonable punishment. So this is, I find myself falling into this problem as well. Because I'm angry and I feel that my kids did something bad, so even the punishment is sometimes a lot bigger than, the problem. Like, they didn't, finish their homework on time or something. Or they goofed off, and now it's 11 o'clock at night and they're still trying to finish their homework because they were goofing off. So the punishment I give is, okay, no electronics for the rest of the week. The punishment is much bigger than the problem. And am I the only one who does this, or do you feel that all of us do that? We hand out a punishment that's bigger than the problem, and so it becomes a burden on the child, and so actually this encourages them to lie next time, because maybe they can get away with it and not be punished. This severe punishment.
There's a question. Sorry. For the point where it says explain why it's wrong to lie, you give the example of they cheated on a test, you explain to them, you should, if your teacher confronts you, you should say, yes, I did. In their mind, like, okay, if I say that, I'm in big trouble in school or in front of my teacher. So I feel like it's not, how can you explain it to the kids why they shouldn't lie or why they shouldn't do it in a reasonable way where they can actually take it, understand it, and do it?
Yeah. So if maybe that wasn't the best example, but let's go with it. Okay, so they cheated on a test in school. Okay. First of all, we should probably address the problem of why did you cheat? Why didn't you cheat? Because I didn't study. Why didn't you study? Because I was goofing off the whole week. Okay, so we know the root cause, we need to fix that first. And then we come to the next point, okay, so you got caught, okay, and you try to get away with it by lying and saying, no, I did not cheat. So if we say you should be truthful, yes, they're going to say, well, I'm going to be in trouble, okay? Maybe the way to help them understand the consequences is, if you went and was truthful to the teacher, he probably would have given you a 0 on the test, okay? And this is proper punishment for what you did because you cheated on the test. But now that you cheated and you lied, and I was called, and the principal knows, you could actually get expelled from school, right? So now the problem is much, much bigger. So it's actually better if you tell the truth and accept the consequences because you did something wrong, rather than trying to cover it up with a lie, and it gets actually much bigger. Typically, yeah, I mean, people want to not get in trouble, but when you explain that the consequences are bigger if you try to cover it up, then they'll understand that it's better if I am truthful. The last point, and this is maybe the most important, is we have to make sure that the child understands that we love them anyway. We love them regardless. Habibi, I know that you did something wrong. I gave you a punishment, but I still love you. Because this is, where things get a little shaky in the relationship, especially if they're constantly doing something wrong and you're constantly punishing them, so they feel that nobody loves me, I wish I wasn't born, all of these things that we hear, all the time. I was speaking with one of the priests one time about something related to this. And he says that when he disciplines his kids, so he could be, like completely obliterating the child, but he keeps the child sitting on his lap. Why? Because at the end, when the child is crying because the punishment and whatever, he's going to hug him and kiss him and tell him, I love you. Okay? So, punish as much as you want, but make sure they understand that you love them. Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to carry them, forward.
That's maybe in younger age, but when you grow up and being like a teenage, when you punch me and on your lap or closer, and then you give me a hug, I will not believe you. I will not believe the hug. You punch me or say you hurt me, hurt my feeling, or hurt on me, if I punish you bigger, and then you hug me, no.
What do you think?
Some personality at that time maybe believe the hug, and another personality, the teenager, will say, no, I will not believe you, and even I begin to hate you.
So I'd like to hear from everybody. That's a good point. I have some thoughts, but
like in younger age, like our pre-K age and elementary, yes.
Of course, if we start when they are this young, it's not going to get to that point.
Yeah. But
if we are at that point, how do we? So, hugging or kissing, that works much better with younger kids. When they're teenagers, like my teenage daughter, I try to hug her and she runs away from me, right? But how?
She began بالعربي إنه هي بتنفر خلاص.
Yeah.
She began the point of hating and force another expression.
Yeah, I don't think it's hatred as much as they want their independence.
Yeah, you want them independent, but the actual which happened, they عندهم النفور ده. This kind of hate is beginning. So they didn't believe the emotional from you when you punish too much in that age.
So what is what's your suggestion? How do we tell the kids who are like teenagers that we still love them?
Don't punish that much when they became like older and on a big understanding for the issues. Just talk too much. Like talk to them much than punish.
But if they are doing something big, you cannot just talk and let it go. You have to discipline.
Yeah, but punish can't be big because when it's big, no, he's gonna tell me his mind whatever you're gonna do. He doesn't even care about the punishment. Some personality gonna work with a punishment. But another personality will sometimes even go away further and further. And even he wanna go away from the home, he gonna go further for drugs, for anything he want. He's just gonna be stubborn more.
I think it's a gradual over time. Like, we can't be absent in a relationship and then when they're 14 years old, then we try to start punishing. Yeah, at that point it's too late. But it's Abu Nayyan said a very long time ago. I don't remember the context exactly, but he said, have it to the point where when they're older and they're teenagers, that they are stopping themselves from misbehaving because they don't want to disappoint you. Because you've had this loving relationship, emotional hugs, theoretical hugs, whatever. So when they get to an older age, they don't want to upset you. One thing that we also do to kids and we damage them is saying, oh, it's because they're teenagers they're going to act this way. They don't have to act that way. If we put them in a box of once you hit 14, you're going to start misbehaving, they will do that. It's going to be a mental state they put themselves in, but we don't have to put them there. If we build them up and have a good emotional connection, it sounds easier, but it's going to be very difficult. But we have to work hard every single day. So when they are in middle school and high school, it's too late if we have been absent emotionally, but sitting down, hugging them, making sure that they know that we love them every single day, no matter what they do. When we get to the point where it's difficult decisions about
like, give an
punishment.
example. Like, say one of your kids, you discover he began to try the drugs. And even from his money you give it to him, he began to buy and try it. How are you going to react to that? You're gonna then tell him, what you did? And then you closer to him and tell him, Habibi, I still love you. I'm talking to that love you after the big punishment, and I will cut your, your money pocket or something. And then you give him and tell him, I'm doing that because I love you. Do you think he care about it, all that? Or he's thinking now, how am I gonna still getting that?
But how did he get to that point of getting drugs and wanting drugs,
It happens. Sometimes you're doing all the good stuff, and they see it, and they just wanna try, just showing. Like if a boy, you wanna show, like I'm a man like you. I'm going to the point. I'm gonna try. I'm telling you that from the situation we see.
When you're raising them, I think even when they're doing something bad, you don't want them to think that they're a bad person. Right? So if you're saying you're doing this and you're doing this, then they're always in their head, if that's the way you're disciplining, they're always in their head gonna think, okay, well, I'm a bad person anyway, so I might as well do this. I might as well try this because I'm a bad person anyway. But I think you're supposed to punish their actions and not like make them think that because they, tell a lie here and there, or they do this here and there, that they're a bad person. Because if they're always thinking by the way you punish them that they're a bad person, then I think they're gonna keep lying. They're gonna keep stealing. They're gonna keep,
I want to tell him, like, give him the much punish you can, and then be sure he closer and give him the emotional stuff, so he's sure, like, making the balance. But sometimes that balance, situation with older age, will not work. So that was my question: how we treat that? What we said about one example. That one.
Continue, Marianne's. They build the experience. When they do something wrong, when they are little, and the experience how you handle this, it's stored in here. And if you keep repeating, they know when they do big something and come back to you, they will remember how you dealt with them in the past. And they will be appreciating whatever you're going to be doing to them at that moment to correct whatever happened. It's experience.
Yeah, I understand, but sometimes we all experience that with our parents, and it comes to the point like sometimes, no, I wanna get out of the line a little bit. Some personality gonna try it and feel like the failure, so they come back to the hug of the parent, but who's stronger or stubborn, or he has a bad friends on the outside, more effective than you, and they gonna encourage you and he gonna go further. So it's simply, all the examples will not work like with everybody. So
can I share
just to add on, I think also when they're children, like our kids' age right now, like 3, 4, 5, I think it's also important to allow them to express themselves emotionally. And every year that they grow up, also to allow them to express, like to vocalize their emotions, like if something bad happens to them at school, to try and ask them, so how did that make you feel? Was it anger? Was it sadness? So that as they get older also, they will be able to express to you, because it's important to, whatever happens, to kind of like desensitize what has happened or occurred that day or that, and yeah, when they become teenagers, and I'm just like trying to reflect because I don't have any older kids, but I see my cousin's kids that are teenagers, and at this point in time, it's very, very difficult for her to sort of like say, give them a punishment and then give them a hug. And she does realize as well that when they were children, she did not invest in time like attaching herself emotionally because for certain circumstances both parents had to work, so they were mainly left with either a nanny or her mom or somebody else. So there was a gap that, over the years, there's a huge gap. And now she's really, really doing her best to bring them back. And it is difficult.
It's
Like,
difficult.
they don't want to be even hugged. They don't want to be, yeah. So it's just something that.
We have to invest the time in them, emotionally,
Yeah.
physically, socially, spiritually. It's a lot. It's a burden for us, but it's a
Yeah.
sacrifice every day. Yeah.
But definitely that element of allowing them also to emotionally to express themselves, like at this age, I think it's important.
So I wrote three things here, more for me to remember because I'll keep forgetting. The first point, which Marianne actually mentioned, and actually Abuna Inan said this several times, you have to have a balance of love. What does that mean? Like a bank account, okay? So when they are younger, you're depositing a lot of love. You're depositing a lot of love. And so when they start to make mistakes, and especially when they're older, you're withdrawing against the balance that you already have. So now they don't feel that you hate them because they already have so much on their account of love that they know that what you're doing is for their benefit. This has to be done when they're young. We can't interject when they're teenagers, and I mean we can if we missed the first few years, but it's going to be a lot harder, a lot more difficult. So while they're young, we give them a lot of love, and we still discipline them. And there's three levels of teaching. There's the what, there's the how, and there's the why. Think about it. Anything that you learn, you go through three steps or three levels. Imagine, for example, brushing something simple like brushing your teeth, right? When you're a child, when the child is just very small, you teach them what to do, right? You take the toothbrush and you go like this. They may be brushing their whole face with it. It doesn't matter. You're just teaching them the what, and so they're getting used to it. When they grow a little bit older, you teach them how. This is the proper way that you brush your teeth, and so now they know how to do it properly. And then when they're older, you can teach them the why. It's important to brush our teeth to fight the bacteria, to make sure that we don't get cavities, things like that. You can't, it has to be done that way. You can't go to, a 3-year-old and say, you need to brush your teeth because there's cavities and you need to get rid of them, and he's not going to get it, right? But you teach them the what. So in the younger age, like this example of this little girl, right? She lied. Did you notice her mother didn't really punish her, right? She kept on asking her, why did you lie? Why do you feel that you have to lie? Very light, okay? And the girl laughed it off and the mother laughed it off and it was resolved. This is the what. You should not be lying, right? When they grow older, then you teach them how to be truthful. And then when they grow older, you teach them why to be truthful, right? So these are the three steps. So that's the first point, which is like the balance of love. The second point is the foundation. As our kids are all young, it's very easy for us to make sure the foundation is good. It's very easy for us to tell them to pray, to come to church, to read the Bible, to be good, to not to lie, and they will accept it. When they grow older, it becomes very difficult if we miss that foundation. If we put the foundation to be good, then we don't have to worry down the line, that they're going to go astray. I'll be honest with you. My dad never told me, don't use drugs. He never told me don't smoke. He never told me, don't go out with girls or anything. but he taught me the foundation. So when it came time to this, I just knew that this is not right. And I don't even, it wasn't even like a thought. So if the foundation is good, then it's going to be so much easier later on. The last point is allow them to fail at home. It's okay to make mistakes. I would rather that they make a mistake while they're at the house rather than they make the mistake when they go out to college and they're living on their own. And this ties into boundaries. I have to give them boundaries where they can be independent, but they feel that they can come to me when they have a problem. Have you read the book Boundaries? So there's a chapter in there about there's a case study about two teenagers that grew up in Christian homes, and one of them, there were no boundaries. In other words, the parents infringed on the child's boundaries. And the other one, the parents respected the child's boundaries. 18 years later, the same two kids were approached by their friends in school to do drugs. The child who did not learn how to respect boundaries and for his parents to respect his boundaries, he actually did the drugs. The child who learned boundaries refuted it and said, I'm not going to do it. Because he learned, this is my boundary and you need to respect my boundary. And when the parents try to confront the kids, so the first child, how did he react? The one that did the drugs, he became defensive. He started to yell at his parents. He's like, "These are my friends. I'll do whatever I want," and he became very, angry. The other child said very simply, "That's not something I want to do, and if they are really my friends, then they won't try to pressure me to do something like that. And if they're gonna stop being my friends, then that's fine." So teaching, and this is another thing that is very important for us to learn how to do, and I think we all need to kind of learn how to respect our kids' boundaries so that they have a way to respect their own boundary and not let other people infringe on their boundaries. These are the things that are going to help us when we get to the teenage years and there's a problem with a child asking your son or your daughter to do something wrong. If the foundation is good, if he knows his boundaries, if he's allowed to make a mistake at home and not be thrown to the lions for it, and of course if there's a balance of love, then it's not going to be a problem. The problem is, unfortunately, we don't do these things, right? And then we wait until the kid is in high school, and then we're trying to solve it. And now I'm going to punish him and try to hug him, and he's like, get away from me. It's not enough that you took away my money and you told me not to do this, and you think this is love. I don't want to live here anymore. This is exactly what's going to happen. So hopefully, since our kids are young, we can fix it now, because it's going to be very difficult later on. The same thing, some parents are like, the kids are still young. I'm not going to bring them to church every Sunday. It's too long. It's this, it's that. I'm going to bring them when they're older. It will never happen. They will never come to church. Unless they come now and get used to sitting there for 3 hours and listening to hymns they don't understand and seeing things they don't understand. In this stage, we're just teaching them the what, okay? Actually, it happened a few times where when St. Paul used to, pray on Saturdays down in the church in Sugar Land. Actually, that church was very close to our house. It was like maybe 4 miles away or something. So it was very convenient for us. And so we started going there on Saturdays. And we, as the parents, got lazy on Sunday because we're like, we went to church yesterday, so why do we have to go to St. Mary's on Sunday? It's too far and all that. My daughter actually came to me, it happened, I think, at least twice, where Sunday morning she's like, why aren't we in church? Right? And that was actually a wake-up call for me. So after that, I said, that's it. No more, if we go to church on Saturday, that's fine. That's an extra. But we have to go to church on Sunday. Because we already taught her the foundation that Sunday morning is church time. And she's the one teaching me now and saying, why are we at home on Sunday? And actually, I felt weird, but I was being lazy. I'm like, I went yesterday, and of course, because I'm a servant, I have to go, but I can go at Sunday school time and stuff like that. And it has nothing to do with waking up early because we're already awake, right? It's weird when you want to go to church, right? It's very difficult to wake up. But if you don't have anything, then you wake up early, and you're like, what do I do now, right? So teaching them the foundations and making sure that they get it, this is what's going to carry them for the rest of their life. Of course, encourage the person to try honesty in the. How much time do we have? Do you know? Okay, we'll keep going until they tell us to stop, or until you tell me to stop. The lazy lie. This is the next one. Okay, this is out of convenience, right? I don't want to do what you told me to do, so I'm gonna make up something. Did you do your homework? No, I don't have any homework. My older daughter does that quite a bit, and it's because she's being lazy. And then I say, okay, let me see your folder, and then we start looking at, oh yeah, I forgot about this, and I forgot about that. The younger one doesn't have a problem. She comes home and she starts her homework, and she'll keep working on her homework until it's done, even if it's at midnight. She doesn't give up. But the older one, and this is actually a very important thing, we can't treat them the same way, right? We have to treat each child the way that they behave.
So, sorry, when she says I don't have homework, you say, let me see your folder, are you showing her you don't trust her? Like, how?
Yeah, so
right.
At that point, yes, because it's happened a few times where, and I'm not really saying I don't trust you. It's like, let's make sure. Okay, so you're saying you finished your homework, you don't have any. Let's just look at your folder.
Make sure you didn't forget.
Yeah, because and I don't bring it up as you're lying to me. Okay, I bring it up as, did you forget about this? Oh yeah, I forgot. Or this is my favorite. Well, this was a class assignment. Well, why didn't you finish it? Because we didn't have time in class. Okay, well, you can do it now. Not because we didn't finish it in class doesn't mean it's done. You don't have to do anything about it. Asking them, do you have a test? Sometimes they forget. Oh yeah, I have a test. I know that, for example, every Friday they have a test. So on Thursday night, did you study for your test? Reminding them to do these things without saying you're lying because you're trying to get away with it. My favorite, I cleaned my room because they never clean their room, right? That's a given. If you let lazy lie slide, if you're like, well, this isn't harmless, so what, you didn't clean her room, it's not a big deal. Then they begin to learn that being honest is not a big deal, and then it gets into more serious problems. The white lie. This is a big problem that most people just don't give a lot of thought about it. Typically, this is something to save face or to spare somebody's feelings, and this is different from empathy and avoiding to hurt somebody's feelings. So there is a way that you say things without hurting somebody's feelings, but then there's a way where you're lying not to hurt somebody's feelings, and those are completely different. So an example, you're invited over somebody's house and they ask you how was the food, right? So, if you say the truth, it was terrible. It was dry and bland. Of course, this is not good. If you say a white lie like, it was delicious, okay, that's what most of us will do, right? Because we don't want to hurt their feeling. But this is not good either because it's a lie. Instead, you can do something like this. Well, this was new to me, and I'd like to try different things. Okay, so. Would you like another one? No.
Never.
I remember, Albert, you might remember this. One time, Abuna's hat was praying the liturgy, and the person who made the orban, it was like really bad orban. Like it was salty, and it was nashif, it was dry, and like that. So, Abuna gave communion, and then he still had like half an urbana left. Like he doesn't want to eat it because it tastes bad. So then, usually when there's or bone, the body, there's still some more. The priest usually gives to the deacons. So he started to try to give to the deacons. They're all like, no, 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 thank you.
Wow, is that that? Someone I'm gonna have to eat all himself.
Shouldn't be putting salt in it. So.
Yeah. The thing we have to remember is that white lies do hurt. They hurt the person that you're saying it to, and they hurt the person saying it as well. So instead, we need to help the child find a way to express their feelings without lying. They're going to say, well, I don't want to hurt my friend's feelings, so I said this. Well, this is a lie. You may think it's a white lie, but it's still a lie. So instead of doing that, find something positive to say to the person without hurting their feelings. And a very good example is the Samaritan woman, right? When Christ approached her, and he told her what? Go call your husband. And she said what? I have no husband. Most of us would have said, aha, because you're living in sin, and that's why you don't have a husband, right? But what did he say? You have said truthfully, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one that you are with now is not your husband. So you have said the truth. So he witnessed that she did say the truth, but he pointed out the problem. You had 5 husbands, and the one that you're living with is a sin. He didn't just ignore the problem, but he did not put it in a way that hurt her feelings. And he did not, say, you're a liar, right? So this is how, we need to teach the kids, and for us as well, how to say things in a way that is beneficial and not hurtful, but at the same time, don't ignore the problem. And the last one is the cry for help. So sometimes the children will lie because they're afraid of disappointing us, or losing our love, or because they're overwhelmed and they need help with dealing with pressure. How we handle this is very critical, because if we compound the problem by pointing out that they are lying, we're making it worse, right? If we ignore, then we are ignoring their feelings. So we have to handle it very delicately. We need to have a heart-to-heart with the child and allow him to express his problem, his anxieties. Again, let him fail at home. This is very important. It's much easier to repair a problem when it's at home than it is to repair it later on. Consider lowering your expectations. This is important, especially for us as, again, Egyptian parents. We expect that our kids should be A students, right? And we get upset when they don't make A's, right? So the child can come home with straight A's and 1 B. And what do we say?
Why'd you get a B?
Why do you get a B? Yes, what happened to this A? Why is it a B? So he could have 10 A's and 1 B, and we'll focus on the B and not on all the A's. We don't encourage. Instead of, we kind of put him down. Like, he feels he failed because I got 1 B, even though I have 10 A's. And then the other problem is I have 2 kids. One is a straight A student. Like I said, my younger daughter, she comes home, she does her homework by herself. Nobody even has to ask her, and she's done. The older one has more difficulty, and she has to be reminded and stuff like that. What do you expect their grades are gonna be, right? The one who does her homework right away will get straight A's without even trying, right? The one who doesn't is gonna struggle to get A's and B's. If I treat them both the same, and if I compare them, this is even worse. Like, how come you don't have straight A's like your sister? This is very bad. Very, very...
But they both have the same foundation, same balance, same boundaries.
But different characters, different personality. Yes.
Where it goes around to every kid is different.
Yes.
So you
And no
have to
matter
treat
what you
them
do, everybody
like you
is
have
different.
to alter different things according to their personality.
And they can't. You can't expect that they both like the same thing and they're going to do the same thing, right? So the one who who's a straight A student. Maybe she likes math and science and stuff like that, and so she excels in that. Maybe the one who's struggling actually is more inclined to art and music and things like that. So you encourage that. Of course, she still has to learn math and science and these things, but you don't just diminish the importance of what she likes because you want her to be a doctor or an engineer or something like that. Because all Egyptians has to be doctors and engineers. There's nothing else that counts. But we have to encourage the capabilities and the talents that our kids have. So if I lower my expectations, now I'm not. If I say, okay, I know that this child struggles, and so it's okay that she gets A's and B's. So now when I see the report and it's A's and B's, I'm not upset because this is my expectation now.
I have a question. Can you tell us examples for failing at home? I mean, I don't know. So I could be seeing him doing something that is going to get him hurt or something, and don't say nothing, wait for him to be hurt? Or like, give me examples. I'm not picturing anything.
Yeah.
There's Love and Logic. There's
So if something is not going to get him
there's a book that talks a lot about that. It's like, if it's cold outside and your kid refuses to wear a jacket, you let them go outside.
I was having this argument 2 days ago with one of my friends, and he told me, if it's cold outside, it doesn't get you sick, a virus gets you sick.
Right.
And I didn't know what to tell him. I was like, yeah, whatever.
You allow them. The point is that you allow them to fail at home.
Don't always, save them.
But it's gonna be cold out. It's just gonna be cold outside the rest of the day.
Yeah.
My son doesn't wear pants to school. Refuses all year long. Only shorts. Okay, you're gonna be cold. But he has to make that decision.
But maybe our back of mind will say, no, you have to be dressed because it's gonna be cold.
Yeah.
And we have this argument all day long.
But they've got to be able to fly within limits. Those are the boundaries. And that Love and Logic book is really good too.
So failing at home again.
I know.
So, one example, actually, who's really good about talking about this is Missy, Abuna Benjamin's wife. She's really good about this. So, one time actually, in one of the church picnics, the Easter picnic, I don't remember which one of her sons, but he decided he wants to come wearing his pants inside out, right? So I saw him and I said, "Hey, Missy, why is your son wearing his pants inside out?" And she said, "Well, he decided that that's what he wants to do." And I told him, "I don't think this is a good idea, but if you think that that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it." So she allowed him. So he came to the picnic with his pants inside out. And eventually he figured out that this was not right because everybody else was wearing proper pants and he was the only one looking like that. So this is an example of failing at home. Okay, she knew what was wrong. It was wrong, and she allowed it because he's still young. And what's the worst that's going to happen? His friends laughed at him, or he felt
like
ashamed.
we can say like the silly, manageable stuff we can let them fail at.
Because if we extrapolate this, now he's in college. He may not wear his pants inside out, but maybe he's not going to wear any pants and walk around and say, "I don't feel like wearing any pants today," right? But when he does it when he's young at home, and now in college, the consequences are much bigger, right? But here the consequences were small. Right. Same thing. Like for example, I do this with my kids, and I always have an argument with my wife about it because like she'll make dinner, and the kids will like, well, I don't want to eat that, and so she'll give them other options, and then they're never satisfied. When I do it, I like put the food down. I said, "This is the food. If you don't want to eat it, that's okay. But there's nothing else to eat." I do that when she's not around because when she's there, she gives them the options. So like it happened a few times actually where like during the summer I was working from home and they're in the house and I'll make breakfast. I'll say I'm making eggs for breakfast, and I'll give them options. How do you want your eggs? If I get nothing, then I'm just gonna make whatever I'm gonna make, and I put it on the table. I said breakfast is ready. Well, we don't want to eat eggs. Okay, that's fine. Can you make us something else? No. What's the worst consequence? The worst consequence is around lunchtime. She came to me and she said, "Daddy, I'm hungry." I said, "It's not lunchtime yet." "Oh, Daddy, so you're gonna make me stay hungry?" I said, "Yes." Breakfast was there. You didn't want to eat. It's not lunchtime yet. I'm not ready to make lunch, so you have to just wait until lunch is ready. You know what happened the next day? She ate the breakfast that I made.
For Gerges, I want to take the feel at home a step further.
Maybe we should have a discussion just about that because that's very important.
It is, and I think when you put on the board, the main discussion was if they want drugs or if they run out for this. So I'd like to take it that step further is if they want to start experience drinking. You encourage that and at home to get them to know what it is, but then maybe you would allow drinking, but when it comes to drugs, no, absolutely not. Or partying or this or that or sex. So there must be boundaries around this.
Yeah. So, like the drinking part, sometimes when we have like a little wine or something at the house. So it happened a couple of times where the kids are like, we want to taste it. We want to taste it. No, this is for adults, but we want to taste it. Okay, so I give them like a sip, and they taste it like, ugh, that's nasty. Okay, so don't drink anymore.
What if they like it?
Well, if they like, I think there's a bigger problem. I think so. Yeah.
If they like it, just go with them. It's good like to have that very little bit, but the much gonna hurt. So he learned. It's also
I don't actually. I honestly don't think that any kid would like wine because it's not sweet. It's not.
Sweet.
If it's sweet wine, I don't give them that one. Does he want to give the toddlers
the sweet? If you want to try, you give them the dry.
Yeah, because that's what I mean.
It might be good if you want to put them to sleep.
The one who's not good, so maybe he hated from the beginning and he's gonna keep hating.
What if you say I like it? What if you say yes?
Yeah, but when it comes to smoking, for example.
Yeah, so some things you can't, you can't like let them try a cigarette just to see how it is because that's the problem.
Well, at that age, that's when you can explain to them like why. Because
Yeah, and I feel it can circle back to what she was saying is
They're gullible.
they still want to do it.
I think this is where the foundation comes in, right?
And actually, I agree with the point. Like when it comes to cigarette, because when you try for first try, actually you're gonna get hurt. So if he get hurt from you and he hates it, he will never try it because he trusts, and you give him the trust to try it and the freedom.
So you don't need to try it to know.
He's gonna say, you know what? I tried and I don't like it. Instead of saying from him, no, I don't try, I don't know how. So he passed.
Okay, so I think I have the oldest of you, Jonas, 10 years old, and we have the opportunity all the time to talk to him in a mature way, based on his age. What is drugs? What's smoking? What does it do to you? He came one time and asked me, have you drank alcohol before? I said, yes, I tried beer. And I told him I used to take a couple of sips of beer before my exam nights back home in Egypt to be able to fall asleep because it makes me drowsy. But I don't like it. And I told him, you know what I don't like? I don't like that it makes me not in control. And this is the feeling people like, that they are not in control. But for me, I like to be in control of what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, my behavior. And he thought about it, and the discussion ended like this. And then I bring to him, because of my nature of work, I deal with opioids. So I tell him what it can do to your mind, how we can discover patients who are taking this inappropriate in their urine analysis and all of this stuff, and I take it from there to explain to him the danger of it. So he's exposed to this discussion at early age. So when he's faced with it in school, he will have a background, what's going on.
But you know what, Marianne? He's gonna face the question from his friend. He's gonna tell him, oh, okay, that's good information, but did you try it? I tried and I didn't feel whatever you said.
But if
He
he has a
gonna
good
like
foundation,
challenge.
Definitely he will go through it. I agree with you. He
Yeah.
would have this kind of urge, should I try it, should I not, what's going on? But he would
His
always,
decision.
I told him many times, I'm putting this so when you go out, you will just feel the guilt when somebody talks to you about it, that mama shared this with me. I told him many times, I just wanted you to think about it many times before anybody offers it to you.
Yeah.
And that's it. This is my role for now. So bottom line, if you keep talking to them at early age, they will have the foundation.
Yeah.
And when they are exposed to it, they will remember your words. They will be challenged, yes. They might try it, yes. But they come back and they will need the hug and love and they will say sorry and it's a new start.
Actually, and that's a good point. When they do make the mistake, and they come and they say, "I made the mistake," we have to be very careful that we accept them and we love them and not punish them, because actually them coming embarrassed and feeling guilty and saying, "I made a mistake," this is already the punishment. If we punish them, this is where we go into like double punishment, because he's already punishing himself. You know, like if he comes and says, I failed the test. This is already, you know, if he doesn't care, that's a different story. Okay? Then I have to punish him. But if he already comes and he says, I failed the test, I'm sorry, then he already knows that he did something wrong. So I have to give him the feeling of, I love you no matter what, and I know you can do better, rather than, why did you fail the test? You need to be punished. No more TV, no more this. Are we out of time?
How much more time do we?
I'm waiting for
We're talking.
You're just talking?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk while eating? Or is it a part of the lecture? Is it a part of the lecture?
I like to
Like
eat
the
first.
talkies that you have now?
No, we're basically done. Does anybody have any?
I think I have some, like a few more minutes, but I just want to make sure.
Okay, we'll finish in a couple of minutes.
One more question, and it goes back to one of the points that you said, not comparing siblings, cousins, things like that. And I 100% agree with you. I think it can be really dangerous. But like for our situation, for example, we have a 3 and a 5-year-old two girls, and they kind of like, it's kind of like encouragement. It works in an encouragement way. Would that still hurt? Because when she's eating using her hand, and like, hey, look at Joy, she's using her spoon. She actually tries to do like Joy in a positive way. Yes, I'm comparing, but I feel like it's actually building their
yeah,
character.
but you have to
personality.
mix it. I'm doing the same thing, but you have to mix it like the other one too has something better than the other one. So let's catch from each other and get better. So when we being outside, so both of us is
I do.
like in a good shape.
I do that sometimes with my kids, like if they're be the lao while they're eating. So I'll do like a race. Okay, let's see who finishes first. So then they both start to get better at what they're doing without saying, because obviously one of them is doing better than the other. So instead of like comparing and why can't you eat fast like your sister, right? Let's see who can finish first. So now they're both trying to compete in a healthy way, right? So I don't think small things like that. I don't think it's going to be a big problem, but it's really when it's very pointed comparison. Like, why can't you be as good as X?
Yeah.
This is the problem.
I think when it comes to the point you feel like their mind growing up to be like a thermometer to feel really is a comparison, you have to stop that at that point and manipulate it with the other ways for the same goal.
Yeah.
It's a fine balance.
But is that age which is like just
It's a
right
fine
there,
balance because that's
you
when
can do it.
it's a very fine balance because like at 3 or 5 or 2 years old, like that's when they're developing like they're making all their connections and you're setting this like base, the subconscious competition or the subconscious comparison. It can get very tricky and they can have that subconsciously in their mind for the rest of their life.
Yeah, that's why you said you make the solution like when you see like everybody should be different. Some person is better than some person and some, but you still learning. Both of you can like get fast in that point. You make the point in the same time in that younger age. Like when I do it to my kids, I do it, but I say that happens. You perfect in that than Michael, and you perfect in. But both of you have the still time to work on both, like whatever part is missing still. But both of you are gonna reach it.
They're also like completely different.
But you just have the
all of them
example,
kids,
like
right?
as a holding for
So
spoon
like how do you
example.
even try to compare? Like they're 3 and 5 or how like
They
different.
get
They're different age groups. So like I don't even know why you would even try to.
I mean, sometimes it's going the opposite way where the 5-year-old is failing at things that her 3-year-old is
Yeah.
actually doing.
But what's
They're
failing?
mastering.
Like what's
I
failing?
mean, it's not
Hold-
failing.
writing,
a pen,
holding the
everything.
pen, like example from my
The
So I
young one
have
can
two
do
girl
it better than-
cousins who their mom did that, and she went and got the same degree as her sister. She got married at the same age her sister got married.
To the
I mean, it
same
was
to the
like-
same guy.
So it wasn't
That's a tricky question.
she was taught to be compared so much that she literally did everything.
Yeah,
and,
that's
and it
what
wasn't
I
what
said.
she
Don't
wanted.
be that comparable, like comparable with jealousy. Like make it comparable, like to achieve.
Yeah, they could.
Joy would come back from school, and she's 5-year-old. She would, for some reason, it's been happening since she started going to school. It's her first year last month, and she can cry and be fussy, and she'd never been like that, even when she was a baby, actually. And I was like, Joy, what's wrong? You're going backward because you're going to school now, you know? And things like that. Her sister's not even doing it. She already grew out of that stage of like, oh, my toy, you know? So things like that, I feel, I don't know, like, of course it's not healthy to compare, but I also want to point out to her, like, by the way, your 3-year-old sister does not do that. You're bigger. This should be the bigger sister, you know? So is that would be healthy or not really?
I don't know. That's tricky.
Okay.
Because there is a comparison being done there, and you may actually make her feel worse that she's not as good as her younger sister.
Yeah.
So
School is another topic because
Oh.
it's very stressful for the kids. Like
Sure.
my kids the older ones are in 3rd and 2nd grade, and they come home. They've done so well all day. They've held their composure, their character. They don't get in trouble. They come home, they lose it, like meltdown. Yeah,
They don't have-
They don't have growth. No, we should be proud of them. We should be proud of them for holding it together in school for 8 hours. So when they come home, they just let loose, and it's not because they're bad at home. It's because they can be themselves at home, and they can get out all that stress. So she's not regressing in her behavior. She's just getting out everything she would have gotten out during the day that she held it together. You know, like at work, like we're on good behavior at work. We get home and we're like, oh my god, I can't do anything. I'm supposed to be in my pajamas. Like you just want to let loose, and so that's what they do when they get
So
home.
you when you see that behavior at home after they come, you kind of like let it
I
go?
give them an hour. They have an hour when they get home. Just go crazy, do whatever you want, eat, just go, and then do homework. Then they can focus because our school is a little bit more strict. Also, they have to they get in trouble if they talk, pull stick, all the, like all day long they're telling them sit still, sit still, sit still. And these kids are 5, 7, 8 years old. It's hard for them.
And learning to vent out was good too.
So you give them an hour to vent out.
Distress and like.
Sorry?
You give them an hour to like
Just
vent
go
out.
crazy.
So
Just ride your bike, scream, do whatever you want. And then we'll start on our homework.
that's
They
a good
need
that's a
that
good approach actually.
Yeah, it's
because they're at 100. They're like they get in the car and you can just tell I've held it together all day long. Just give me a break.
Sometimes
you know?
when you treat the situation, you have to treat it like you treat yourself. Like if I'm in the same situation, what do I need?
Yeah.
I need to relax a little bit.
And some of us are
And
introverts,
the next thing,
extroverts.
focus about something
they're all
else.
different.
That's good.
I think that sorry, I think like Gabby, my older one, is extremely sensitive. Somebody tells her like not to touch the hot oven, and she'll just cry because somebody like spoke firmly to her, you know. So she's like, and you guys see her like she's very, very like slow to warm up to anybody, like even if she's seen a million times. But like Noelle is extremely like I think she's gonna be extroverted. She just goes to anybody. So I can't like just because the older one is a bit more sensitive and she cries when she gets home, like maybe it's like a lot more difficult for her at school, like sensitivity wise, to adapt or things are just different for each child and it's not a matter of older or younger, it's just a matter of the personalities. I mean, like you guys said before, like you just gotta treat them all different. And it's kind of nice, she like comes and cries to you guys in your arms and she opens up to you and like lets go. Like they let go when they're in their safe place, not when they're in an unsafe environment.
That's going to be helpful when they become teenagers. If they're used to coming to you and crying and saying things, rather than having this wall that they feel you're unapproachable, and then when they really have because the problems they have now are nothing, right? They're very silly. somebody to
All
us,
kids'
yeah.
little problems.
You know,
bigger
don't
kids,
touch the oven,
bigger
somebody
kids,
told
bigger
me or
problems.
whatever, but, you know, when they're teenagers and they want to say, you know, a boy tried to kiss me or something, and they don't feel that they can come to you and say that.
You want her to come tell you that? Yeah.
That's what I'm
The
gonna do.
Egyptian mentality is going to kick in right away. Let's talk about it.
No, that's you have to teach from younger age.
I'll give you my opinion about comparing the kids. I think totally. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but what I think is that I never try to compare the girls because I want them to both be different. And I tell them it's okay to be different. It's okay to be different than your sister. It's okay to be different than what you see outside with your friends. You know, the Halloween topic always comes up. So that's one thing. Like, let them be individuals on their own and let them be different. So I try not to. I mean, it's hard. I'm not saying, but and then the expectation shouldn't be like, you know, somebody else, a kid at school. It should be what you're setting for them and what you want them to do. And what, you know, you're not trying to control them, you're trying to teach them. I think it's nothing. Like, we're not trying to control our kids. We're trying to, like, you know, help them make good decisions in the future, not tomorrow, a year now, 5 years, whenever. So just always like the expectations to be what you're setting and let them know it's okay to be different. Hopefully that works. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. I'm
Yes,
trying to do
yes.
that too with the kids. I try to let them get to that, like, I don't want to say like the good impression or the decision about the thing as I want, but I let them reach to it or reaching to what I want at that stage. No one can make a decision that's good or bad. I let them reach it without like controlling them. I guide them to reach it so they know.
Yeah.
So I think naturally they're going to compare to each other. It's going to happen naturally. They're always going to compare. So you try to like not put more on it. It's just going to be naturally they're going to compare.
Yeah, but at that point, I'm running right away to refer that the other one having something better, which is you don't have still, but you're gonna reach it somehow because he's older, or the younger because he has the nature to do it, but you working on it and you get it. And I give example to something happened in the past, so it makes sense to
To build their self-esteem.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like Olivia can roll really well. You know, Abigail's the older one, she can't roll. So Abigail gets upset. And I was like, it's okay. Like, you know, you can't, you know, but they're automatically going to compare each other. So you try to like go, like, you have other talents, this one's going to have other talents, and let them evolve, you know. So.
Shall we pray? In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, Lord God, amen. Albert, would you pray first, please?
Our Lord God and Savior and King, we thank you, God, for allowing us to have this ARK program, Lord, that we can come and we can all share and worship and fellowship together, Lord, and learn from each other, Lord, and learn from the ways that we want to raise our children, Lord. All of our intentions are the best, Lord, but we all know that our kids are in your hands, Lord, and you're here, Lord, that you can help us and guide us, Lord, in how we want to raise our kids and how our mindset should be when we're teaching and growing the gift that you gave us, Lord. Let us always remember why you give us as children and why you allow us to increase in love as you give us more children, Lord. I ask you, God, to be with every single person standing in front of you through the intercession of St. Mary and our saints. Amen.
Finally, Lord, hear us when we pray together, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil one. In Christ Jesus our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Single parent today, you know?
No, I didn't.
Laura, that sounds so.
Oh, she is.
Yeah, so I'm feeling it. She's the next one. Yeah, Maria's 30th birthday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
So I'm feeling the individual.
Well, a single parent.
Yeah.